Starting with Mobiso version 6.7, Mobiso has added the unique ability to integrate with Google Apps for Business and Gmail to speech-enable personal calendar and contact information. Google Calendar integration enables Mobiso to play back and remind a caller about upcoming and in-progress calendar events. With Google Contacts integration, Mobiso merges the enterprise directory with Google Contacts to form a blended directory that allows users to call Mobiso and connect to, conference, or message any enterprise or personal contact. The Google integrations included in Mobiso 6.7 are the newest Mobiso features to enhance user productivity and improve enterprise communications. Please note the following conditions when implementing these Google services. All users wanting to use Google Calendar or Google Contacts must have an email address associated with their Mobiso user record. Only email accounts managed by Google can take advantage of the Google Calendar and Google Contact features of Mobiso. Both Google Apps for Business and personal Gmail accounts are supported. Services configured for domain access will use the email address in the user record. Therefore, this email must be managed by Google. Enabling the Google Contact service will create a personal directory from a user's Google Contacts that only that user will be able to use. This will enable them to call their contacts through Mobiso. If a contact has multiple phone numbers, the caller can specify home, mobile, or work location. If the contact has an email address, they can also send a message to the contact using the Mobiso messaging feature. Enabling Google Contacts requires both the Mobiso administrator and the end user to perform part of the configuration. The Mobiso administrator needs to enable the Google Contacts service within Mobiso. This is done by going to the Call Processing, Call Services page. Click the New button, select the Google Contacts service from the drop-down list, and click the Enable checkbox to enable the service. Currently, only user-level access is supported for Google Contacts, so the domain-wide access value needs to be set to 0. There is no need to fill in the Google admin email address field. Click the Test button to test connectivity to Google and then click Save. The Google Contact service is now enabled. However, before users can benefit from the service, they must grant access to allow the Mobiso server to access their Google Contacts. To do this, the user will need to log into the Google page of the Mobiso server. The URL for this is your Mobiso server name/Google. For example, on my system, the URL is QA7845/Google. The user will then need to log in using the email address associated with their Mobiso account and their Mobiso access PIN. If you have configured the BroadWorks Authentication service, then your users would use their BroadWorks PIN. After the user authenticates, they will be at the Mobiso Google Contact and Calendar Access Settings page. To allow Mobiso to access their Google Contacts, they will need to click the Authorize Mobiso Contact Access button. If they are not already logged into their Google account, they will need to log in. Then click the Allow Access button, copy the access code that is shown, and paste that into the Google Authorization Code field on the Google Access Settings page, and click Authorize. Once the Mobiso server has verified the authorization is correct, the email address that is being used for Google Contacts will be displayed in the Google Contacts section. Since the access level is set to user-level access, the user has control over what email address gets used for contacts. They can authorize any Google-managed email account that they wish. They are not limited to the email address that is associated with their Mobiso user account. This would allow you to enable the Google Contact services to your employees even if your corporate email was not Google managed, as they could authorize a personal Gmail account. However, only one email account per user can be configured for contact access. The personal directory is rebuilt every night to add any new contacts into the user's personal directory. The contact list is also refreshed when authorization is given for the first time, and also if the user logs into the Google Access Settings page. Adding a new contact in Google will not automatically initiate a rebuild of the personal directory. Unless the user logs into the Mobiso Google Access Settings page, they will not be able to call the new contact through Mobiso until the following day. Enabling the Google Calendar service will allow Mobiso to read the caller's calendar, allow the caller to join meetings in progress, and to hear calendar events for the day. An event is considered a meeting if the system is able to determine that there is a phone number within the description field of the calendar event. Configuring the Google Calendar service for user-level access is nearly identical to the Google Contacts configuration. On the Call Services page, click the New button, select the Google Calendar service from the drop-down list, and click the Enable checkbox to enable the service. Leave the Google admin email address field blank and set the domain-wide access value to 0 to enable user-level access. The window of interest field sets the number of minutes prior to the start of a meeting that the meeting is considered to be happening now and can then be joined. Set this as you see fit. Click the Test button to test connectivity to Google and the configuration, and then click Save. The Google Calendar service is now enabled for user-level access. Users must now grant access to their Google Calendar. Just like allowing access to their contacts, this is done from the Mobiso Google Calendar and Contact Access Settings page. Click the Authorize Mobiso Calendar Access button, copy the access code from Google into the Google Authorization Code field, and click Authorize. If your corporate email is being hosted by Google through the Google Apps for Business services, and you want to enable the Google Calendar service for your entire company, the Google Calendar service can be configured for domain-wide access. When Google Calendaring is configured for domain-wide access, the individual users will not need to allow access to their calendar. Instead, Mobiso is granted access to all calendars within the domain. To do this, we first have to log in to the Google Admin Control Panel for your domain and grant access to Mobiso. Go to the Advanced Tools tab and select Manage OAuth Domain Key. Put a check in the Enable this Consumer Key checkbox. Ensure that the two-legged OAuth Access Control checkbox is unchecked and click Save. Go back to the Advanced Tools tab and select Manage Third-Party OAuth Client Access. In the Client Name field, add the Mobiso Client ID. In the One or More API Scopes field, enter the scope to allow read-only access to the calendars, and then click Authorize. You have now configured Google to allow Mobiso read-only access to all of the calendars within your domain. To configure Mobiso for domain-wide access to Google Calendars, edit your Google Calendar service and set the domain-wide access setting to 1. It is necessary to put an email address with administrative rights into the Google Administrator email address field. Click the Test button to check that Mobiso has been granted domain-wide access to your Google Calendars. This test will use the email address in the Google Administrator email address field to attempt to read the calendar for that email account. Once the test is successful, click Save to save the configuration. When a user logs into the Mobiso Google Calendar and Contact Access Settings page, they will see that the calendar service has been enabled for the domain and that it is a system setting that they cannot modify or revoke. Now, when a user calls in, Mobiso will use the email address in their Mobiso record to access their Google Calendar. Calendar event details are read from the subject line, and the event description is searched for phone numbers and meeting IDs to join a conference bridge. Mobiso is able to join meetings from many of the popular conferencing services, including but not limited to Alcatel, GoToMeeting, and WebEx. For additional information on either of these features, please refer to the Google Calendar and Google Contacts appendices in the admin guide.